Hi everyone, thank you for joining me on this demo. My name is Gino Osahon, and today I am going to walk you through a step-by-step process on how to deploy smart contracts to the RSK Testnet. We are going to do this through the hardhat development environment. The hardhat development environment is going to enable us to compile, to test, to deploy and interact with our smart contract on the RSK testnet. We are starting this demo by using a GitHub repo that was created. And as you can see, this is the GitHub repo, and it contains some folders, and also what we're interested in is the README file, because the README file has a step-by-step process on how we can do this deployment on the RSK testnet. So we are going to follow the step-by-step process that's been listed on the README file. So let's get started. And as you can see, the first thing to do here is to fork this repo on GitHub and clone it with Git. So let's go ahead and fork the repo. So I have the repo on my GitHub. Let's git clone. Yeah, so let's fire up a command prompt. So git clone. Yeah, we've cloned it to our local computer. So let's cd into it. Yeah, we are inside it. We can take a look at the directory to see the different files and folders. As you can see, we have the following files and folders inside the directory. So we are going to open this up also on our Visual Studio Code so that we can take a look at the different files inside. But let's proceed with the second step here. So before we continue with the second step, we need to set up our environment. We need to install some dependencies. So let's go ahead and do npm install. This will install the dependencies that we will need, including hardhat, to be able to run this demo. This is going to take some time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fire up another command prompt so that we can open this repository on our Visual Studio Codes and take a look at the different files that are inside. So while this is coming up, let me open up a new window, cd into RSK, and there. So I open this project on Visual Studio Code. Yeah, so this is while we're trying to set up our environment by installing all the necessary dependencies. Let's just take a look at the smart contracts that we are going to be deploying as this is setting up. So if you take a look at the contracts folder, you're going to see two smart contracts. These are the smart contracts that we want to deploy to the RSK testnet. The first one is called RSK starter.so, and RSK starter.so, as you can see here, we have the Solidity compiler. Then we are importing the second smart contract, which is called RSK starter logs. So that's what is happening here. We're doing the import. Then this is the smart. This is how you declare your smart contract using the contract keyword and the name. Then, as you can see, this is an instance variable of the other smart contract, and what's happening over here is initialization in the constructor, and it has this smart contract has two functions, speak and shout, and they are both calling functions in our second smart contract. So if you take a look at the second smart contract, it has an interface and a contract. So the contract here is using the is keyword to implement the interface, and an instance variable that is public, and an event, and one function. Okay, so these are the two smart contracts that we are going to be deploying to the RSK testnet. We have our deployment script here and our test that will make sure the functions in the smart contracts are all working as they should. Another important file that we need to take a look at is the config file. This is where we configure how we are going to connect to RSK testnet by providing value for these attributes: chain ID, URL, gas price, accounts, and all that. So let's go back and see if yes, so our environment is up now. We can proceed with this demo. So the next thing we need to do right now is to generate a seed phrase to use in the RSK testnet. So let's go ahead. Let me clear to make sure. So let's go ahead and generate a seed phrase by running the following command: npm run new -rsk testnet seed phrase. Okay, so yep, we've generated a seed phrase. We are going to take a look at this file that was created to see the seed phrase. Let's implement the second command. The second command is to download the latest block via RPC from RSK testnet. So let's download the latest block by running npm run new RSK testnet block. So let's take a look at what's inside these files. So what happened when we run the command? The output can be seen in our Visual Studio Code. As you see, we have two new files. This is a seed phrase. You are not encouraged to show this, to review your seed phrase, when doing deployment on mainnet. This is just for description purpose, to see the output of those commands. So this is our seed phrase, and this is the block response. Okay, as you can see, have a lot of information in it. So I think let's proceed. Now that we have, the next step will be to connect to RSK testnet, and we can do that using npm run console-rsk. Yeah, so this command is going to open up an interactive shell for us, and using this shell we can issue commands and interact with the RSK testnet, as you have seen. Okay, so this was where the first it went through the compilation process. Yeah, so let's start interacting with the RSK testnet now that we have successfully connected to it. The first thing we're going to do is to obtain the latest block number, and we can do that using by simply copying this command on the readme into this. So this is the latest block number. Okay, let's issue the second command, which is to obtain the address of the first account generated from your seed phrase. So we are going to use, we need an address, okay, and that's the address we're going to use in the deployment to deploy our smart contract. So let's just copy this command, go to the interactive shell. Yeah, so we have an address now. What we are going to do is to copy this address down, because it's very important, since this is the address we are going to use to deploy our smart contract. So I am going to just create a new text file here and just, oh, what am I doing? Yeah, so I'll just call this deployment address. Okay, this is our deployment address. So now we have an account. Now that we have an account, remember that when you want to deploy smart contracts, you need to pay for gas. So we need to fund this account with some test RBTC, so that when we are doing the deployment, we already have funds, so that our deployment does not get aborted because of lack of funds. So we are going to use the RSK, the faucet, to get some test RBTC into that account. So let's head to the yeah, this is, so we're going to paste this address here, which is our address that we just generated, and type in the captcha. This one is not clear, so let me just reload. Okay, I think this one is clear. So so you see, a transaction is currently happening. Like this transaction is going to be mined. That's why it's taking some little time. But what's happening here is that we have an account and we need some test RBTC. We went to the faucet, which is a tool that is used to fund accounts with test RBTC. Okay, and right now the transaction is being mined, and when that is done, we'll be able to view the transaction and see what happened. Yeah, it's going to take, it doesn't take much time. Let's just be a little patient, and we'll see that some test RBTCs will be sent to our address. Oops. This is crazy. We're supposed to see the transaction hash and all that. I don't know what happened, but let's just see if the transaction was successful. Yeah, the transaction was successful, and 0.5 RBTC was sent to us. Okay, but I don't know what happened. We are supposed to see the transaction hash and all that. Let's just proceed. So we have some test RBTC now on our address. Okay, the next thing would be to compile our smart contracts. Remember when we ran, there was a command we ran and it did some compilation. So we are going to clear that, clear the hardhat cache, so we can do fresh compile. So let's just zip. Clear. Now, before we recompile, let's make sure we clear cache, and so that we can do a fresh compilation. So nps hardhat clean. Okay, so now we can compile. npm run compile. Yeah, so as you can see, compile to Solidity files successfully. Our contracts have been successfully compiled. This is a huge milestone. Like we've been able to get through to a considerable step by successfully compiling our smart contract.